I just my issue is reach. I'm very bad at distributing. I'm not a good seller. I'm a good builder. I don't like to bother people, so inherently I'm not a good seller.
Hi and a huge welcome to you, my lovely listener. So glad you're here. Today you are joining me for a chat with Alejandro. Alejandro is building Bento and has a lot of experience on developing app. Alejandro, it's so nice to have you.
Yeah, nice to be here.
You already told me quickly you have quite an intercultural background family-wise. Maybe we start there. How did you end up?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my dad is from Buenos Aires, from Argentina. That's why my name is Alejandro. His grandparents were from Poland, so that's why I have a Polish last name. And my mother is Austrian, so I speak German as well.
But you also speak Spanish or Portuguese? Which one is it?
Yeah, I speak Spanish, but not fluently. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's quite nice. And these days you build apps. I think you have a lot of experience in iOS apps. How did that journey go?
Yeah. So I went to school to learn how to make video games. I'm more of a right brain person. I was going to go into music, and then my piano teacher took me out for coffee and said, I don't want you to be living on the streets. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm not going to go into music. So I was looking at other things I can do, and I just wanted to, be creative. And I thought, what is more creative than building video games? Get to create worlds. I get to still compose music. So I went to school to do that, and then I was only in the game industry for a few years. I worked at Ubisoft for a little bit. I worked in Montreal, and then I realized I just want to focus on my own games, and I don't really want to do it as a career. So I switched to iOS, and I've been working for different companies, mostly dev shops and agencies building out their iOS apps for different clients for like the past 10 years.
I've started programming quite young. I've never really programmed games. So this is a very interesting topic to me because while I like to play video games, I've never really gotten into building them and then just realized later how big of a market it is. What do you think you can learn if you start with games to do the opposite side and then build apps? What can you learn from games for building apps?
Well, I find that like in terms of a subset of programming, building games is quite difficult. It's quite involved. There's physics and math involved, and writing code for the GPU. And so when you transition from games to regular apps or regular software, it feels really easy because now, and I just have to render some UI components and transform some data. That's a piece of cake compared to, writing a pathfinding algorithm and, writing a shader to reflect the sun off the ocean.
Yeah, I think it's getting more interesting now. I think also game development with the idea of developing world models, because when I look at what's happening in AI, maybe you have an idea to that as well before we go into your apps. But when I started developing for machine learning, for example, a while back, and I know that you do a lot of that for gaming as well, I stumbled over something called OpenAI Gym, which is kind of an environment that your agents can work in. And I always thought, okay, yeah, if you want to build like real agents, it would make sense to describe the physical environment like in a virtual setting with constraints, and then have the agents learn during self-play or something like that. And I would, if I think about very good agents, I would think this could go in a similar way. How do you think about that?
Oh, are you saying like 3D world representations of your agents? Because I've seen that. I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously doesn't have to be visualized in any sense, right? But you need some kind of constrained environment that it gets as close as possible to the real world. I mean, if we could do something like that and then have agents learn in them with different algorithms, this would probably be a path to getting kind of very well learned agents. That's always what I thought when I looked at this, because what I did back in the day was I looked at container yards, for example, and in ports, and you can stack containers in different ways. And what they do is they have complex heuristics to optimize something like that. And what I looked at back in the day, and that was 2020 or 21, was, okay, I just describe the environment and I say I have a set of places where something can be, these kind of things can go in certain places, there are physical limitations like containers have to be stacked on each other, these kind of things. And then I just have a neural net and I train the neural net to do all the stacking in it. I don't care anymore. I remove the complete heuristics. And that was always what I thought when I obviously have no idea and I've looked into transformers, but I always thought if you want to have real good agents, you would have to create some kind of environment like this and use this as a training environment for your agents.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's just the beginning of this whole new agentic world. So it's exciting to see where it's all gonna head, and yeah, for sure that's all gonna be relevant to robotics too, where they have to understand, the real world and stuff like that. So yeah, I get a little bit of whiplash thinking about how fast things are moving, and I still I need to take time to expand my like agentic workflows as well, because I still just have a couple Claude code instances working and talking to each other, but there's people like spawning swarms and taking all this to another level that I haven't had too much time to look into.
Yeah, where I feel like I've been using Claude Code for a while, where I feel the latest big advancements really are on the more like cowork side. So when I want to create an Excel or a PowerPoint or something like that, or these kinds of things have gotten ridiculously good over the last year. Like if I use Claude Cowork, for example, the output quality is just amazing. And I think that is where I felt the biggest advancements were lately.
Yeah, I haven't even played around with Claude Cowork, so I need to check that out.
Yeah, probably from any other of the three big players, you will see the same. So whether it's Gemini or Codex or Claude. Yeah, looking over, I think that is what I also feel is my kind of subscriptions are spiraling out of track. So I'm really losing track over time. And that was why I got really interested into Bento, because I also thought about building something like that back in 2022. I never moved. I got a few initial users. I completely scrapped the project, but I think the idea is still as valid today as it was back when I looked at it. So maybe you can tell us a bit why you started building that, and especially how modern AI can help.
Sure. Yeah. So in the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, I was working for a crypto company that was trying to do Uber or Lyft, like ride sharing platform on the Solana blockchain. It was called Teleport. And in January 2025, they shut down. And so I was like, okay, I can go and look for another development job, or I can really just take a little bit of a career break and try to build an idea. And the idea that was floating in my mind was, I'm kind of financially lazy. I haven't used a budgeting app. Like I was looking at budgeting apps and stuff like that, and I saw that they're all like built by very left-brain people. They're complex. They take, some time to learn. They're very rigid systems. And I didn't love any of the solutions. And I also noticed that none of them were leveraging AI. Like none of them had like LLMs integrated. And if they did, the one or two that I found would hallucinate data. They were unreliable, and they were, not implemented very well. So I had this idea to build my own personal finance app that focused on modularity, so I can track what I want. I wanted to create dashboards, and the idea crystallized as like a widget system, like iOS native widgets. I just wanted to, track coffee, have a coffee widget, track groceries, have a grocery widget, have like a merchant comparison widget, and compare Uber versus Lyft spend. And I wanted an AI to integrate with that so I can get my agent to organize my transactions. And I wanted to be able to say, last month I was in Mexico, tag all my transactions as Mexico, and now I have a Mexico widget tracking that spend. And so I wanted something, for like a Gen Z or young millennial audience that don't really want to use these complex like YNAB or Monarch, these rigid systems, and just want easy answers, and they're used to AI giving them quick answers. So so I went to Thailand, I went to Southeast Asia, and I started building this project. And I'm very, like, what holds me back is my perfectionism. So I'm very design oriented. So I just launched it 2 weeks ago. So it took me a year and a half to build. But I'm really happy with what I made. Like, the idea was it should be like if Johnny Ive, like the guy who kind of designed the iPhone and early Apple products, like if Apple made the personal finance app, that's what I was aiming for. Yeah, and it's called Bento because it's modular. Like you can transform all your widgets, and it transforms the data. Another inspiration was a mix panel because you can like answer any product question you have and visualize it in different ways. And so, Bento is the result of all that.
And how is it going now? So you have launched fairly recently. Do you have first users, customers? How do you monetize?
I'll answer that. The funny thing is, I launched 3 hours before I launched. OpenAI announced personal finance integration with Plaid, which I thought was like, the gods kind of kicking me in the nuts a little bit. But it seems like people don't really, it's not that big of a deal. But I just thought, like, what are the chances OpenAI kind of Sherlocks me in my launch day? But that's why I'm happy that it's not just the AI. It's also this modular system. And it's going all right. My problem is I didn't I don't do the marketing side until I launch, and so now I'm trying to hire someone to handle marketing. I'm trying to push out TikTok reels and focus on that. So I'm not focusing on the product right now. It's already too polished of a V1. So now I'm pausing product work and just trying to push it out there and get users. And it's just the beginning. Like, I just launched 2 weeks ago, so no one knows about the app yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've launched a few apps over time, and early stage growth is just really hard. It's the same, I think, as you said. Nobody knows until sometimes you can hit some kind of virality, but unless you already have an audience, it's really, really hard. Still asking, do you see any adoption already outside of like that you can self-generate from TikTok? And if you have tried different marketing channels, what's your feeling? Which marketing channels work best for something like that?
Yeah. So I remember the previous apps I launched, Apple would give you a little bit of a boost in the App Store. I noticed they don't do that anymore. So I think that's because of how oversaturated the App Store is and all the vibe coders pumping out apps every day. So I recall always getting a little boost like a week after I launch. And in terms of marketing, I haven't done any meaningful work on the marketing side on any of these platforms. I'm kind of warming up my accounts, starting to post Instagram, TikTok accounts. So I don't have a gauge of what's the best one at the moment. But from my research, I'm expecting TikTok to perform the best.
Yeah, that's what I've heard from everybody. It's also the truth if I look at different channels, like personally, also from the people I know, also for personal account, it seems to be the one, if you put in the work, where you have the best chances, like for a obviously consumer audience, right? So if you look at a business to business audience, people say LinkedIn is the clear winner. X doesn't really seem to win. Also, I use it a lot, but yeah, that's really interesting. When you said personal finance apps are often too rigid. What is it exactly, like if you pinpoint it to a few sentences, that makes a difference with your app for yourself?
Yeah. So every personal finance app out there will prescribe you dashboards. So they'll have a dashboard and show you your net worth. They'll show you your top categories, and let you set up budgets. And they all do that. But if you have specific questions, or you want to set up a dashboard yourself, I haven't seen any app that lets you compose your own dashboards and answer your own questions about your finances. So I thought what Bento offers that none of these other apps do is dedicated dashboards for whatever event or project in your life you want to track. So Bento allows you to, if you have a wedding coming up, create a dedicated wedding dashboard connected to whatever accounts you want to connect it to. So your dashboard is scoped to whatever bank accounts you want it to be scoped to. And then you can tag your transactions that are related to weddings. You can track categories related to your wedding, track merchants related to it, and have that all contained in a dashboard. And then eventually we'll let you export to CSV or save it or archive it, whatever. And you can always reference these moments in your life and how much they cost and whatever. It's also really good for trips. You go on a Euro trip, Mexico trip, whatever, and you have a dedicated dashboard for that. You track your Airbnb, you track Ubers, you track flights, and it breaks it down. There's so many different options to view your data. That was the Mixpanel inspiration too. If you want to look at it in bar charts, line graphs, pie charts, if you want some more metrics about it, like the percentage of your spend, like we let you have complete control of how you view your data. And then, just no other app lets you have that level of flexibility.
You also integrated an AI assistant called Benji. I think that's also a strong differentiator against other apps. How does it work?
Yeah, so Benny is hooked up to GPT 5.4 mini model, and it has a lot of deterministic server scaffolding, so it doesn't hallucinate. But it basically, it has these tools, and it has these intents. So every single request that you make to Benny, he'll detect whether it's like a planning intent, whether you're trying to plan something, whether you're trying to create something like a budget or a category or tag, whether you want insights or whether you want to organize. And then all of those paths have a different prompt and keep it really good at those specific intents, and all those intents have specific tools. And so that's why when you use Benny, there's a different icon, and those are the different intents. So Benny is most useful to understand your spending context. It can indirectly query the database. It has an understanding of the schema, and it can only read. It can't update or touch any data. So it can read data, synthesize it, and then whatever you need to suggest budgets, to apply tags, whatever. And it won't ever make a change for you. It'll just suggest changes that you have to preview, and then you'll have like a UI in the iOS app where you can like deselect certain rows if it got something wrong, and then update all. So every single update goes through a user review, and it can like, it's really powerful. It can like synthesize tables for you, and just, you can ask it like, compare my top category spend over the last 3 months and show me how many transactions in each category, and it'll create a whole table for you.
Yeah. When you look at these things, you have built a ton of features. How did you decide what not to build? Because I think that is also very hard, to be very precise on what you're building and what you're not building.
Yeah. So I focused around, I think it's too feature rich for a V1, first of all. Like, I have feature parity with all of my competitors, and then I have things that they don't have. And, there's no point building out so many features if you don't have users. Like, I don't have any that many users yet. So I definitely could have launched a long time ago with less features. But the features I did decide to build were based around just ease of use. I want tracking to be effortless. So right now I don't have manual account adding. Like, you have to connect through like the trusted third party Plaid to connect your bank accounts, because I didn't want users to have to like input every single transaction. I want it to be seamless. You connect your bank accounts, and everything is handled and categorized for you. So all the decisions, feature decisions, were based on how to make a tracking your money experience as seamless as possible.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, because I remember when I worked on an app like that, it was also very rigid. It also obviously had a dashboard. I think it's a classical one, right? I was just interested in recurring subscriptions that you have, because I felt like this subscription economy is just evolving a lot. And I would say I have a lot of very small subscriptions where I pay just a few euros, and sometimes I would just forget to cancel them. And it was annoying to me, because if I just took a look closer, I would maybe cancel them, but that's still quite cumbersome. How did you solve the topic of connecting to a bank account? Or your app connects to a bank account, right?
Yeah. So it connects like every other one of these personal finance apps connects, which is a third party called Plaid. It's kind of like the leader in the industry and the most trusted third party. And so, I've partnered with them, and only request read-only access. So I can only read transactions. I can't move or do anything else with your money. And I also get redacted data, so I don't get account numbers or anything like that. So it's pretty, like, that was the thing I feared, is just like maybe people don't have much trust in connecting their bank accounts yet, which is actually the good part of OpenAI kind of announcing a partnership with Plaid too, because it's going to build more trust in these third parties. But yeah, my promise, like, I'm very privacy oriented. So I also, never sell your data. And when you delete your account in Bento, I delete every single record that you have with us.
Yeah, it would also be a question that I have, right? Because a lot of applications, especially for like smaller companies, I would also have privacy concerns first. When the company is a little larger, it's, I think, easier to mitigate, and people will directly believe that you take care of the data. That's, I think, also a big advantage of Apple. It's a disadvantage of a small solo developer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What I'm also interested in is, I think we have seen a lot of apps that manage to build gaming features into their tools, like Duolingo, for example. Did you also incorporate something like gamification into your app?
I think my gaming background definitely influenced the design. Like it feels engaging and fun to use. I don't have anything like explicitly gamified in it. Like I don't have streaks or anything like that, but I have thought about it. So in the future, I'm sure I'll think of gamified features. Like this is my first non-game app that I've developed and released. Every other app has been a game, so it's definitely in my nature to try to gamify.
Yeah, I think that is all. It's mostly helpful, right? Because an app that is, and maybe gamified is also not the perfect word for it, but an app that is fun to use. It's just, especially as a consumer app, you just like to use it more, right? And we use enough boring app or apps that are actually not fun to use. So building something that is engaging, that is nice to use, definitely wins. If you look at it, you have built, I think, games, you have built different applications now, a fintech app. What was most fun to develop?
Um, I think this one was the most fun to develop, just because it was a product that I really wanted for it to exist, and it was just really gratifying to use it throughout development. And it's also saved me money. Like Bento makes your spending so transparent that it really shows me my habits and shows me, oh, I'm spending way too much on coffee and these things. And then I cut back, and it's actually changed my habits as well. Um, but there's so many UX and design challenges with this app that it was really engaging to build. It was really fun.
Yeah, and I find especially apps that utilize LLMs, usually for me, it's really hard. As soon as you start tool calling and you have to deal with different scenarios, like people will not kind of do what what you expect. That they, it's just incredibly hard to get consistency into these applications. How did you solve that?
Yeah. I mean, Benny, if you use Benny, it'll say beta. And that's because he's still not perfect. He'll still make some mistakes, and I'm constantly, fixing his brain. Uh, yeah, there's been so many refactors and rewrites of him because of just, it's a pretty like new space and domain to just build out these agents and hook them up to tools and stuff like that. So I kept learning better ways of doing things, trying to optimize like input tokens. There's times where he was just way too expensive. So I kept trying to optimize him. And then when you switch a model, it can just switching from 4.1 to 5.4, I had to kind of rewrite his brain because of the like model specific considerations. Like it just behaves so differently and decides to use tools very differently. So a lot of iteration. Yeah.
Yeah, I also find that. So different models behave differently. It's also sometimes you have the feeling something works and then you realize it doesn't work. This is really challenging because I think as developers we are so used to having deterministic systems,
Yeah.
and LLMs are just not deterministic, and also your input is not deterministic. It varies a bit, and it is so incredibly challenging to get that right. I mean, that's probably also a huge opportunity, and maybe some people have figured it out really well. But I notice this every time I use LLMs, like getting consistent output and performance is really, really hard.
Yeah, totally. And that's why like running evals is really important. Like I have an eval framework with all the most common prompts and all the most common queries that I'm trying to not have regressions on. And so every time I make meaningful changes to the prompt, I run it through the evals and make sure that they pass and that I didn't cause any major regressions.
I think within the company you run, you also have a few games left, like Letterbox or PoliVita, and you talked about selling them online. What's up next? Do you plan to do that? Do you want to focus on Bento? Do you want to build more finance app? What are you planning to do for the future?
So I'm such a product builder. Like I love to build products. I've worked so hard on my games, Letterbox and PoliVita, and then I launch them, and I just make the classic mistake of just waiting for the market to find them, and I don't put enough marketing effort into them. So uh, it saddens me a bit because I'm just so busy. I have my hands full with so many things that I don't have the time to give it the marketing attention it deserves. So that's why I was open to selling them. But I do want to, um, improve my marketing skills and start. Uh, I'm starting to look at, AI tools and agents to help me with that as well, to kind of automate some of the posting and like asset creation, marketing asset creation. So I still want to give those apps another chance and do a marketing push, because PoliVita is like a great game. It's inspired by Monument Valley, and I think there's a huge market for it. I think people would love that game, and the people that have played it do love it. I just my issue is reach. I'm very bad at distributing. I'm not a good seller. I'm a good builder. I don't like to bother people, so inherently I'm not a good seller.
Yeah, I'm not so. I'm like technical by nature, and I think selling, if I would say selling in a person-to-person sense, came relatively easy to me because you just need to find the pain and articulate the value. Like if you look at real go-to-market for apps, it's a very different story. It's hard. It's a real learning. I think you can learn it as you can also learn sales, which might be different from time to time, and you can probably perform more. But to me, also like marketing and sales, it's really hard work. It's not easy. Like for me, writing on X, for example, that's easy. Like that's fun to me. But doing a podcast is also easy. But like creating marketing content, as you would say, this is hard work. Like I can also second that. But I also understood more and more over time and watching people that it's a real differentiator. Because if you fail, I mean, ideally you make a product that is so great that people tell their friends and they all come in, but you still need to kind of accelerate this, right? So if your
Yeah.
starting group is just so small, it's very, very hard to grow it. And especially in consumer, it's really hard. So I believe, yeah, I can fully follow that.
Yeah.
And
That being said, there's a lot of content on X and people telling you their strategies, and I'm starting to follow some of those now, so I'm excited to see where that leads me.
yeah, it's absolutely exciting. And I think the nicest thing that you can have is actually you listen to somebody or you had that idea, you build it and people start using it and they are happy using it and it gets adoption and it gets big. That's actually really nice to see, like the second part. It's just very different from the first part, from the ideation and creation. If you
Yeah.
if you look at or if you had advice for people that have an app idea but keep second guessing themselves, what should they do? How do they start?
So I would say if you've never built a software product or an app before, it's easy to kind of dream up a big idea with a large scope. And I would say, as your first app, the idea matters less. If it excites you, great, but keep it small and just go through building it and shipping it and see how that feels. Um, and then you can make your ideas a bit bigger. Don't do what I did and take a year off work and spend a year and a half building an app. Yeah, with these AI tools now, you can build quite quickly. But definitely still, like, if you are just a vibe coder, I would say, and you're not a software engineer by trade, definitely try to get an understanding of your systems and still like study, you know, security and databases, and you should know how your app works. So yeah, I think some of these vibe coders still are a bit naive and leak their secrets and tokens on GitHub. So yeah, be careful with that.
Yeah, I have a lot of these discussions on the podcast already, and I honestly think like really good senior developers with a good architecture understanding and design, they can just easily 10x their productivity. Where even if they already were like the famous 10x developer, then they are just 100x. Like it's just an amplification. If you're terrible, you will just amplify your being terrible. You have to have this. You have to know what you want, and you have to have an understanding of to judge the quality of the output. If you don't have that, you will not get great results. That I truly believe in.
Yeah. Yeah, like the way I started Bento was I didn't actually use AI for the first few months. I just built it by hand, like an artisanal coder. And then once I did integrate agents, I had a very solid foundation for them to build on top of. My app architecture was already defined. So I think that's a really good way of building too, is just setting the foundations up and then having agents leverage that solid foundation.
Maybe as a last point, so if people now got interested into Bento, where can they find it?
Yeah, so you can go to bentoapp.io. It's currently region locked to just US and Canada, and it's only on iPhone. So it's on the App Store as Bento : budget and money tracker. Yep.
Thank you, Alejandro, for being on the podcast. It was a really fun talk. And to you, my lovely listeners, see you next time.
Thanks, Nicholas. See ya.